Good afternoon, everybody. It's Mark Baber from Sony, and we are going to be going live in just under 4 minutes. So we're live on the WEX YouTube channel, and we're going to be talking to Andrew Whyte, one of our Sony Alpha creators, who's an astrophotographer, and his first-hand experience on the A7S Mark III. So grab a coffee, grab a cup of tea, and we'll be with you very shortly. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Smart Baby here from Sony. I'm the technical marketing manager for the UK and Ireland, and we're on the WEX YouTube channel. So this is the live channel. We are live here today. Got my backdrop. In fact, if I just press a button here, you can see I'm still in my shed since lockdown one. We're still operating outside of our offices and bringing to you live webinars such as this, where we're going to be talking to Andrew Whyte. Now, Andrew, I've known for a couple of years. Andrew's an alpha creator, Sony alpha creator that uses Sony kit. He's an astrophotographer, and he's going to be talking about his experience with the A7S Mark III in just a second. So we're going to go live. This is live, like I said. But before we do, stay with us because we've got loads and loads and loads of offers for you with WEX. So we have an exclusive offer for those of you that are watching our channel today, and if you watch it a bit later when it's not live, so it'll be recorded on the WEX YouTube channel, there'll be an opportunity to see those offers as well. So I won't give too much away now, but please stay through to the end. There's an exclusive link that you can take down, register, and you will be sent exclusive Sony offers that you find through WEX. Okay, so on top of that, if you have any questions, my software today won't allow the questions to come up on the screen, so you'll have to excuse me as I look to the right hand side, and I can see at the moment we've got our guys from WEX in the comments. So if you do have questions that you want to ask myself and of course Andrew about his work with astrophotography, then of course please put them in. We'll bring them in as much as we can. And Andrew's created some exclusive content as well that will play probably in the next 10 or 15 minutes, so we can ask questions around that as well. So please keep them coming through. We've got a lot of people watching, which is fantastic. Let me just see here. Alex, there's a name I can't pronounce. We're in London. Warrington, Richard Warrington in Warrington. So great. Yadwinder, hello, nice to meet you. So thank you guys. Get your questions through. There's a great opportunity to talk to somebody that's using Sony kit, especially a new camera like the A7S Mark III in the field. So without further ado, let's bring in Andrew and say good afternoon.
Hello, Mark. Hi.
How are you?
Hi, everyone else. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, thanks.
Thanks for joining us. Really, I know you're busy. We're all busy at the moment, and it's great to be able to share your knowledge and experience with the WEX customers that are watching live today, and of course anybody else that wants to watch that
really
a bit later.
To join you.
No, thank you ever so much. And like I said, I'll have a look at the screen. We've got lots of people joining us. Dhiren Doshi says hi. We got Robert Dean. I don't know if you know Robert Dean from Kent. Camber from Scotland. So hello guys, and welcome. So please fire away with your questions. But look, Andrew, for those of you that don't know you, you obviously use Sony. I've known you for a couple of years now, and it's great that we've got a similar product that you've used in the past, A7S1 I think it is. What's your background? How have you got to this point using the A7S III? And give the viewers a little bit of an insight of why you are where you are today.
Yeah. Well, my passion through my life really has been photography, and I had the opportunity quite a number of years ago now. I think it was 2007, 2008. Had the opportunity to quit a full-time job and to adopt this passion of photography as my new career. That coincided with sort of paternity leave, and I just tried to make it work, and very quickly found that was going to be a bit of a struggle during the daytime to have a newborn child and trying to be out with the camera. So I adopted going out at night time. And very quickly found that it was an area of photography that I enjoyed and that I could get a lot out of. When there's urban scenes, you enjoy shooting urban scenes, but then move on to starscapes when you can escape the city. In terms of using Sony, I'd sort of worn out a couple of my cameras. It can be quite destructive going out at night. You end up bashing into things that you don't see. Long exposures, I found in the past. I haven't actually found this with my Sonys, but long exposures they sort of put a lot of pressure on the sensor. When you're shooting them for extended periods of time, again and again and again. So I'd worn out a couple of cameras, and then I was just looking to upgrade, and the Sony A7S was launched, the original. So this was 2014, and I thought, right, this is just the right time. Everything's aligned. Now's the chance for me to jump ship. So I moved. Fortunately, I took a couple of lenses with me because the E-mount lets you do that with adapters. And I've just stuck with it because I haven't found anything else that gives me the kind of the sensitivity, the handling, the end product that the A7S range gives me. And over the last 6 years, I've had the opportunity to try the S2, the R2, the 7 Mark III, and now I've got this S Mark III. And it's just been evolution after evolution, and they kind of keep getting better and keep delivering. And obviously, countless more lenses now as well.
I mean, for those of you that are not familiar with the range, so Andrew's talking about the sensitivity side of our range of cameras. So we have an all-rounder like the A7, which is the Mark III. Then you have the A7S, so the latest, the A7S III, which is dedicated to low light, both stills and, of course, video. The A7R is for resolution, so we have 42 million pixels in the R3 and the R2, and then obviously 60 million with the R4, and then the A9. Now, a lot of people think the A9 sits at the top of all those pillars, but actually the A9 sits at the top of speed, and the A7R4 for resolution, and now the A7S III for sensitivity. And again, lens range, I mean, back in 2014, there wasn't as many lenses as we've got now to choose from. So I think, what did you start out with? I think, was it a 28 you started out with?
I've got the 28, and I absolutely love the 28. But no, my first E-mount was a 16 to 35, the F4, and the 70 to 200. I bought quite early on and still have. That's the F4 as well. I love the 55, which is the Zeiss lens. I think it is the Sony Zeiss lens.
Very popular lens.
Absolutely love that. And the 28. Also for this, I've been using the 24 mil 1.4.
Yes.
And the 12 to 24 mil f2.8 G Master.
That's very wide.
It's incredibly really wide angle.
And for those of you, again, if you're looking in the comments, the guys from Wex will be bringing up links to the lenses that you can purchase, obviously, from Wex. Like I said, do stay with us because there's some good money off as well, off a selected number of items. Somebody just joined. Max has joined. He's saying, what is going on? I've just joined. So, Max, for you, this is about astrophotography with Andrew Whyte, who's a Sony user, and he's going to be talking about his work with the A7S Mark III. So we're just going through Andrew's background and the kit he's using and where he's at now. And just mentioning those lenses as well, we now have 57 native lenses in our range. And again, if you are coming over from a system, yes, you're right, you can use adapters and things like that. But I don't know if you agree, but there's nothing better than a native system with a native body and lens to get the best technology.
Absolutely. The times that I use non-native lenses are when I'm trying to achieve a very, very particular effect, like a vintage effect with a vintage lens. I went to a car show and took my camera along, and it was kind of quite fitting that I captured that in the style of the time, the era of the cars. So I used a vintage lens, and just with an adapter, it clicks on. And obviously you've got no autofocus. In fact, I don't think the lens even had autofocus. It was that old. But certain of the other features still work. So for instance, something I talk about later is the focus peaking. That still works with an add-on lens. It's invaluable.
Absolutely. So it just shows how diverse the system is, and of course there are other manufacturers that make the lenses. So there's actually more than obviously just 57 in the range, but there's 57 native lenses. And of course, if you have an A-mount system, there's a newest Sony adapter actually that you can use to bring your A-mount glass over to the E-mount as well, which is great. So some questions are coming through, Andrew. But what we'll do is let's get on to the actual product itself. So the A7S III, we've seen a lot of content at the moment on the video side, and rightly so. It's an incredible camera for video, and one of the reasons why I reached out to you, Andrew, was of course from a stills side. We don't have that much evidence really from a stills camera, and I think with a let's just bring up the spec a second. If you look at, it's got a brand new sensor, 12.1 million pixels. I think people are put off a little by maybe it's not got enough pixels. I mean, what's your opinion on that?
Well, the short answer is that you don't have to worry about that. And there's a couple of reasons why you don't have to worry about that. In my experience, I can only talk about my experience, but in my experience, I've had prints to A1 size or thereabouts, a decent size print from a single file. So that is, that's one potential that you've got, and they withstand a lot of scrutiny. But one of the things that is feasible, and the A7S range makes this feasible, is that because you've got such high sensitivity, if you're out at night shooting astrophotography, you can get done in 10 seconds, 8 seconds, 15 seconds, what used to take you 30 seconds or more. So that means that you've actually brought the opportunity to shoot panoramas very, very easily and very, very kind of with a lot of integrity. You've brought that into astrophotography because the stars, or the Earth, is rotating at night, and the stars have the appearance of moving through the sky. Now, over a 45-second period, you're going to notice that. Over a 15-second period, less so. So you can shoot shorter exposures, create a panorama, and then you've got your bigger print size and greater resolution.
Well, that's again then. So again, I mean, obviously using the camera myself, I've not been able to push it that far because I just haven't done it. But that's really encouraging to know that, because traditionally, the sensor, the pixels on the sensor are a lot larger than your traditional pixels that you get, and obviously that's letting up to 4 times more light onto the sensor. It's got a brand new processor, so it's I think 4 or 5 times more faster than the previous model. So I think for those of you maybe looking at moving from another system or from another manufacturer, or moving up from the 1, 2, and 3 like you've done, you're going to see some dramatic improvement in picture quality, but also because it's renowned for its low light capabilities, you're going to be able to push it. Yes. Obviously, with a new engine, and the details obviously going to be a bit better.
And so some of those things that you've just mentioned, the performance of it, they're obvious from the minute you pick it up. You switch it on, it's ready to go instantly. Looking through the viewfinder, you've got such a bright, clear view through the electronic viewfinder. I much prefer it to using an optical viewfinder now, which 6 years ago I'm in an R-ing about whether I could get used to it using an electronic viewfinder, and now I wouldn't go back.
No, again, there's obviously a place for all different types of technology, but for those of you, again, not used to optical EVFs or electronic viewfinders, it is a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. Feedback from the viewfinder, so you're seeing what the sensor sees rather than on a DSLR. You're seeing what the mirror box and the prism, the older technology that you can get in DSLR. So look, let's play a video with the product itself, and let's talk through the features you found that obviously helped you with the video that we're going to show a bit later. But what were the big differences for you? Just give this a second, Andrew, and we'll just play this. Okay, there we go.
So one of the things that, the very first encounter that I had with it was trying to work out how to open that flap. I could have done with this video early on, because what I like to do is go in, where I'm used to working in the dark. I like to get a new product and start using it without reading the manual, because you've got to get that familiarity with it straight away, to take it out into a dark location and be able to work confidently with it. So it's got a familiar feel to the rest of the products that I've used, the A7 range. But obviously these new features, the weather sealing, you saw how well those doors shut. That's a bonus. The thumb wheels, just where the right thumb is on that video, they are just so accessible. They're just in the right places. It's absolutely spot on, certainly for me. Also the C2, you can see on the top there the C2, and then as we rotate it, you've got other buttons which are all customizable. So I've immediately gone to set those up so that one of them zooms my viewfinder and gives me a magnified view of whatever I'm looking at. One of them I think I've got set to change white balance. I used the autofocus button just to the left of where the thumb is there, rather than the shutter button. It's familiar, but it's an evolution, and it's an evolution in the right way.
Don't forget the screen.
Well, there is that. Yeah. The screen
I know you joke, but it's obviously new to our system.
Yeah, and I thought, how is that gonna help me? And actually, it was a really big help, because composing down low, if you can imagine out on location, trying to compose a shot in daylight is one thing. Trying to compose a shot in the darkness of night is completely different. And so having that screen where you can angle it to where you are without having to lie down and wait for an extended period of time, it makes a really big difference.
We're going to go to some questions, Andrew, because we got one that's repeating up. So thanks, Wex, for this. I can't remember who it was from, so let me just check here. God, there's so many. Here we go, Canberra, I think it was. Okay, so astrophotography on an A7 III with a 28-70 kit lens. Can it be done? Yeah,
absolutely. That's the really short answer. The A7 III has, again, a very powerful sensor. It's got a lot of dynamic range. It's got a decent range of sensitivity, ISO sensitivity. And so, although the 28-70 wouldn't be your first choice for astrophotography, it's a very acceptable lens, and the sensitivity of the sensor and the strengths of the camera make up for any deficiencies of the lens.
Yeah, I think, again, the more light you let onto the sensor, so whether or not you've got a sensitive sensor like the A7S III, if in this case they're using the A7 III, then you're reliant on the lens. So if you want more light in, you'd probably be looking at f2.8, f1.8, f1.4. I think the 24 is a 1.4. So obviously you're gaining some extra stops there. So thank you for that, Andrew. I've got some other ones here. Let me just see. Yes, this somebody's asked about the webinar being on YouTube later. Yes, it will be. So please watch this a bit later if you can't watch it now. Let me just see. What system do you use to create the panoramas, Andrew?
I'm literally just using the camera, whatever kit that I've got with me, using the camera and tripod, and I'm not using any special system. I do it if I can do it in Lightroom or in Photoshop using one of the automated processes, I will. But if not, then I will stitch it manually.
Cool. Hopefully that answers that question. Right. So I was going to show some comparison to the A7S II and A7S III, but time is getting on. So what we'll do, we can come back to that if there are any questions. But Andrew, you've kindly put together a little bit of a reel. It's around 7 minutes long for those of you who are watching it. But please watch it, because there's some incredible tips and best practices and really shows the camera in its really pushes it to the boundaries. And I won't give too much away now, but at least you're a bit warmer in your house than you were. It's not. It doesn't look like it's a. I don't do any astrophotography, but I'd love to get out there and do that. Obviously, living in the city, it's you've got light pollution and so on. But and obviously we can't go out and stuff like that. So maybe I'll look at this again when we can. But it's not a glamorous job, is it?
It's not glamorous at all. No, I mean, you get used to it, and certainly it's enjoyable. Just on nights where everything works in your favour, it's just so nice to be out, to be away from everything, to be under the stars, and to have kind of peace and quiet. And you don't normally encounter a single person. I say normally because on one of these nights I certainly did. Yeah.
Well, look, it sounds like you got your hands full in the background, so let's play the video.
That's outside, yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay, and then we'll come back and ask, look at the images in a bit more detail and see what questions we've got as well. So,
fantastic.
Again, thank you for doing this for Wex and ourselves, and we'll play the video, and we'll be back straight after.
I've been keeping an eye on the weather forecast for a few days, and tonight has consistently looked like it was going to be clear, making it a great night for astrophotography. But first of all, we've got to leave all these city lights behind.
I've used and abused the A7S range since the Mark I launch 6 years ago. I reckon it deserves its reputation as the low-light king, so I'm excited to have this new A7S III full of improvements and new features. I've been told to expect big things from the autofocus system. The menu system's redesigned and simplified. I love that there's now an interval timer. It's what I used for that driving time-lapse. The uprated battery is going to give peace of mind for long exposures in the cold, and I can now run the camera from a USB power pack if I need to. Trying to frame images in the dark is a big challenge, so the bright EVF is going to be a great help. Also, the monitor can now flip out and rotate for extra flexibility. Having paired the camera with the ultra-wide 12-24mm f2.8 G Master lens, it's like a dream kit for landscape astrophotography. This is a location in the South Downs that I've ridden past a few times. Like many national parks, it has protected dark sky status. Astro's challenging enough without having to fight light pollution. It's kind of why you want your camera to be helping you out as much as possible. So let's dive into the darkness and see how we get on. Like I mentioned, composition and framing are the first big challenges you'll encounter on location. With minimal light, it can be tricky to see the form and depth in your scene. Now, here you're seeing a phone video of what I see through the EVF, and it really amplifies the ambient and added light in a way that optical viewfinders struggle to. It's also great for spotting stray elements in the foreground that you might miss, so you don't have to get busy with the clone brush once you get home. Here's the shot, and although I love the gently drifting clouds, there's some ambience missing at ground level. So I've gone into the scene to add some light of my own, keeping the torch moving to avoid hotspots. There's just enough moisture in the air to catch the light. I reckon focusing could be the technique I get asked about most. Again, this is a phone view through the EVF, and I can't get over it. Here in this scene, only backlit by a bit of moonlight, the green icons confirm to you that the autofocus just works time after time. I'm now taking a 5-second shot. Here it is through the EVF. And now let's zoom into the Lightroom edit. Look at the detail in the branches and grass. And remember, that's at wide aperture, f2.8, and high ISO, 6400. A couple of other frames from that camera position. These first two are camera JPEGs. In this second one I've added light to the foreground. And here's the final edit, having combined the two RAW files. Sometimes I might prefer to focus manually, and when that happens the A7S III has another helpful trick up its sleeve. I'm just placing a light low down in the scene. Use it as a focusing aid. Manually focus, you've got the benefit of focus peaking. And what that does is, you'll see as I zoom in, it magnifies the screen, and there's actually a further level of magnification there. I can scroll around. But the other thing it does is, as you start to get into focus, can you see how that's changed to red, and you're going in and out of focus, and it highlights for you the area of your scene that is that's sharp. By this point, the moisture had overwhelmed the air and my lens kept misting up, usually a sign that it's time to call it a night. The foreground was in and out of visibility, although the stars persisted above. But things got off to a bright start the next night when I returned for a star trail and a few more shots. Shooting a star trail gives me a chance to exploit the extreme field of view of the 12 to 24mm lens. There's going to be a ridiculous circle of starlight. I'm using a cable release to keep the camera firing continuously, and usually at this point I wander off and look for my next shot. As it's only a couple of degrees above freezing, tonight's going to be a real test of battery too. Thankfully, no issue with mist on the second night, but these clouds brought an end to the star trail. Here's that EVF phone view again, but you can't tell that I'm so close to the trees. The lens is almost beyond wide angle. It's unbelievable how much of the sky I've been able to capture. And after nearly 90 minutes on a fresh battery, I'm well impressed with 57% remaining. So just over there is my camera. And what you're seeing here is how I use an app on my phone to control it over Wi-Fi. This is such a useful feature at night, like being in two places at once. I was maybe 15 metres away from the tripod at this point. And my phone at the moment is set to control the camera. So if I take this torch and light up the scene, you can probably just about make out the strip of light actually on the phone screen. And a quick capture of the phone screen. The app is not just a trigger, I've got full camera control, including exposure settings, such a time saver. Then it sends the shot to you for review. I took a few from this position with different settings and lighting, just because I could. Looking at them in Lightroom, it's the lens performance that blows me away. Everything's so tight, even right into the corners. The stars are so cleanly rendered, wide open at f2.8. It's exactly what you want from a lens. My favourite pick from the shoot is this, a combination of having the right kit in the right conditions. So, thanks for watching. For anyone wondering, this was filmed on another A7S, mostly at ISO 51000, with the delightful Sony 24mm 1.4.
Thank you, Andrew. I mean, I've picked out a lot of tips in there, but the biggest thing was it really cold? I mean,
it was. Yeah. It's the coldest that it's been since about February. Yeah, this was.
This is quite recently. You did that as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, again, thanks for putting it together. Sorry.
No, just it was frustrating actually, because as you saw at the beginning, I recorded that piece to camera in the car, and I'd been watching the weather forecast. It's something that you kind of have to do because you can usually make something of when you're going out for photography. Generally, you can make something of your scene, whatever it's presented you. But with astrophotography, if you go out trying to shoot the stars and you go to a location that's going to work for that, and suddenly there's cloud, you're going to struggle to find anything else, because your cloud is just going to overwhelm the scene over a long exposure, and it's very unusual to go out for astrophotography and to come back with a successful result if you've been affected by the weather.
We've got some questions as well, and some of them
Yeah.
are related to you out in the field, not just obviously doing this video, but one is around white balance. And if I just find out who said that, let me just see here. Here we go. Sandy Clark asks, how do you set the white balance? So how did you go about that with the settings in the previous video?
Right. Normally, I control absolutely everything manually. So I'm dialing in my my exposure settings manually, and I'm dialing in my white balance and any camera specific like preferences such as contrast and saturation, just to give me a feel for how my image is going to look. Obviously, there's a lot more detail that you can bring out when you get home and process a raw file. But in terms of white balance, I tend to go somewhere between about 3800 Kelvin and 4500 Kelvin. And that strips some of the red out, or in fact, it adds some blue in from the camera to compensate for the primarily red light waves that are around at night. And so that kind of neutralizes certain things like light pollution, and it gives you a fairly natural feel to your image. Obviously, if you're adding in blue through the camera white balance, and then you use a very white light, which sometimes appears like a blue light, then your foreground, any way that you've illuminated, is going to appear particularly blue. But as long as you're capturing in RAW, then you can tweak your white balance to whatever level you want once you get home. And obviously, you can even take the same RAW file and split it in two and process the foreground at one white balance and the sky at a different white balance to give you a result that you're happy with.
Okay, I mean, there's some stuff in there I didn't even know that. That's really, really useful. I hope that answers your question there, Sandy. We haven't covered it, but I know you use a tripod for your shots, obviously obviously in the low light and handheld, trying to keep it still and so on. But the stabilization in the camera has been improved dramatically, as well as you discussed earlier, the weather sealing. Although it's not fully weather sealed, it's obviously the weather resistance elements have been improved. Question here is, I don't know if you've used this, a gimbal, but Christopher says, I've got a Ronin S gimbal. Can I track stars with that? I mean, having a gimbal device, I don't know if you've had experience with that, but how would
as far as I know, no. What I'm guessing the comment is referring to is star tracking, which is where you use a device on your tripod head that rotates at the same speed as the Earth rotates.
So they're trying to do the same effect, but with a gimbal.
Yes, and actually, what an astro tracker is a very specific piece of kit that I'm sure someone from Wex will come along and throw something.
No doubt
into the
it'll
comments
pop up on the comments now
already. But yeah, there's two or three different fairly mainstream options before you get into the more extravagant versions.
Brilliant, thank you, Andrew. There's somebody called Paranjay Dutt. Hi, Paranjay. I'm fond of Andrew's work. Would love to know how he brings his love for long exposures in other genres like automotive or product photography.
Right, yes. Hello, sir. How are you? One of the things that I do with at night, because we don't get the best weather all the time here in the UK, so I have diversified a little bit with my working style. I do shoot a lot of cars, and it's another interest area of mine. And I basically just I'm always looking. I think most photographers are always looking for locations that will work for a particular shot. You've got these eyes that can't rest, and so when I see a location, I try and work out a scene that's going to work there. I shoot cars at night for private customers, and I've done a bit of commercial work in that area as well. Where you're positioning your camera taking a series of long exposures and adding light into the frame, a bit like you saw me in the video with the lighting from behind the trees, adding light into the frame to create to create a final image from several frames.
And I've just put your website up here as well. So for those of you that tracking it across, here it comes, is www.longexposures, and I think it's .co.uk. Yeah, so there we go. So if you want to find out more about Andrew's work, and again, I think we've answered most of the questions here today, but please keep them coming. If there's anything we can't answer, then we'll be more than happy to send. Wex will contact you, and we'll throw those at Andrew or myself. So thank you for that. Let's just put our graphic back up. There we go, and remove that one. Okay, so just to remind everybody who's who. Okay, so the images that you took, let's bring those up, and can you talk us through those as well?
Yeah.
Let me just bring these up now. Okay, so you should still be able to hear me. So this was before, wasn't it? So talk us through this, and then we've got the next photograph will be after.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, you could say it was a test shot. In my mind, it was a little bit more than a test shot, but it appeared on the back of the camera, and I really liked the appearance of the clouds through the sky. They were moving quite slowly, so I had a few minutes to think and prepare a different version of that shot without actually moving the camera. And what I felt was that there was something missing at ground level. And when you're walking around with a torch at night, I try and minimize it. You can't help it, particularly in kind of terrain like I was here. You're walking around with a torch, and suddenly you notice that it's glaring a bit more than you might expect. And that was when I figured that there must be moisture in the air, and was able to use that moisture to catch the light and backlight the trees, which is what I think that next shot is. And you saw me in the video. I was just walking through the background behind the trees and down that kind of hillside, so that I was out of shot, and it was just the effect of my torchlight that you could see. The difference here is that the first shot was made at a high sensitivity and a wide aperture, but I needed more time for the second shot. So what I had to do was to drop my ISO down so that actually the camera's gathering less light for this frame, tighten up the exposure so that the torchlight doesn't overpower the scene, and that meant extending my shutter duration. So it went from being, I think the first one was a 15-second frame, and this one was like a 2-minute frame, by balancing the two, the various elements of the exposure triangle. And one of the ways you can tell this is from the extent that the stars move. In the first shot, they're basically pinpricks of starlight, and in this second shot, they've started to trail.
Thanks, Andrew. Let's go on to the next one.
Yeah, this was one of the shots that I made using the fantastic feature of the camera remote, where you just you put the camera where you want to frame up, and then you walk away from it with your phone, and you've got a full remote control just between the two devices, and a bit like the previous pair of shots. This was the first frame that we've just seen was essentially a test shot. It's the shot where you don't quite know what you're going to get, and then this one using that same moisture in the air to silhouette the trees and to cast a few rays coming out.
Excellent. And let's have a look. We've got some questions coming through, so we'll have a look at those in a second once we get to the final bit. So let me just remove these ones here. Oh, they're going not where I wanted them to go. Just bear with me 1 second.
Yeah. So on the left, let's ignore the background for a moment. But on the left,
there you go.
You've got the this, and these are camera JPEGs. So this is not even raw, although I did capture the raw files of these, but these are what came straight off the camera. On the left, just a neutral shot that gives me an idea of where the Milky Way is, dropping in from sort of top left down towards that gap in the trees. And the trees are very silhouetted. On the right, it's essentially the same settings, and it's not the same frame, but it's essentially the same frame, but with some torchlight added. And those two, the raw files of those two frames, is what I've then combined. I've taken the lighting from the right-hand frame and combined it with the sky in the left-hand frame to create this one that is, I think, going to appear on screen now.
So let's take these off.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, and that's a processed raw file, and you can see in the foreground I've softened that lighting a little bit and drawn a lot more detail out of the sky. And you might be able to see that there is one particular star, I say star loosely, one particular element in the sky that is apparently brighter than pretty much anything else. Are you able to zoom into that, Mark?
No, but this is the movie you sent. So before we just show that, we did a test, didn't we? The other day, and you were discussing this, and you said, "Can you see that?" And I looked, and then you created some footage, which I'll just show in a second, which you zoom in, and I was flabbergasted. So let's go back to that again. So let's now.
So what we're talking about is just to the right of centre.
There we go.
There we go.
So I'll just go back and start again. There we go.
Yeah, just where my mouse was hovering there, and that is the Andromeda Galaxy, which is.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
when you said that,
it's kind of mind blowing. And what's particularly, I mean, obviously it helps to have the dark location to find it. But what's particularly interesting in this example is that it was shot and captured with such a wide angle lens. Because it's there in the sky. You can just about see it as like a slightly fuzzy, slightly brighter feature of the night sky. But to capture it with that sort of 12mm lens, and I think that was fully zoomed out at 12mm, it was remarkable.
And then, thank you for that, Andrew. I was quite pleasantly surprised and pleased when I saw that. And again, the detail is incredible, which with it being so far away. And then finally, this final image. How did you go about this? Because this is something I see a lot of, and I'm always like, wow, I wish I could create something. Is this an additional tool? Any hardware, or is this just literally, created through experience?
The main thing you need for star trails is patience, and lots of it. This is close to 90 minutes. This is I think 85 minutes here. And what I did was I found the settings that worked best for me in this location, which was I think ISO 1000, f2.8 and 20 seconds. And once you've found your kind of balancing point, that's your optimum point, and there's no right or wrong, it's just about your taste and a bit of experimentation. Once you've found that exposure balancing point, you lock the camera running on a tripod with a cable release, and then you step well back from it so that you don't kick the tripod, and you're not tempted to look at something or fiddle with buttons that are going to move it, because it's essential that you've got this kind of really still camera, really static scene, and the Earth's rotation does the rest. So that is.
So how long ago? How long was the exposure for again?
That was shooting 20-second frames over and over and over again for 85 minutes.
That's what I thought you said. Wow, that's incredible. But what a great effect that it gives. Yeah,
and battery life, 57% remaining. I started that with a fresh battery, 57% remaining, on a night where it was 4 or 5 degrees above freezing, and the camera was running the whole time.
And that's a really good point, actually. So the battery element is the new Z battery, which is double the capacity of the W battery, which you normally find in the Mark 1s and the Mark 2. So, excuse me, that's a good... We always put the caveat on things to say estimated, durability, longevity, but we do know, obviously, in the industry that there are photographers, filmmakers like yourselves that are using it and can push the boundaries further than that. So that's really, really good to know that. We've got loads of questions, so let's get back to where we can here. Again, as Wex have said, if we can't get to your questions, I've missed some out, do apologise, but please get in touch with Wex and they'll forward them to us. So Lewis McDonald says, hi Lewis, do you have any advice or tips for capturing images of the aurora for those of us up north? Smiley face.
Well, if you're far enough north that you're able to, then that's fantastic, and lucky you. I'm right down in the south of England, so very, very limited scope for that without an extended journey. In my experience, and it is very limited, but in my experience, what you want to do is raise your ISO as high as you are comfortable, and open your aperture as wide as you are comfortable, and then find the point at which your shutter speed gives you the exposure value that looks right. It's quite a difficult thing to judge when you're looking on the histogram or looking on the back of the camera. But people generally tend to have a familiarity with their camera, whatever they're using, so they know what what settings or what an image that appears on screen is going to look like when they get it home. And really, what that approach would do is it gives you the opportunity to capture as many different shots in as short a time frame as possible, because you're not waiting for a really, really long exposure, because the other elements of the exposure are maxed out. So you're gathering lots of light through ISO and aperture rather than shutter time. And that means you can time lapse them if you want to, or that you get the detail in the aurora rather than sort of slightly smeared aurora in the way that I got smeared clouds over the 2-minute exposure.
That's good.
If you can keep it to 15-20 seconds, then ideal.
Great. Thank you for that, Lewis. There's another question here, if I can find it. So Wex have come back actually to that customer that had information, wanted information about the gimbal. So thanks for that. And there's some tips and advice they've shared, which is great. Alex Cossey, I remember that name from my Panasonic days. Hello, Alex. Any advice or accurately determining local weather and light conditions? I think you mentioned this at the beginning of your video, don't you? That you take that into consideration. So how can we help Alex with that question?
I use a combination of several different apps, and they've all got strengths and weaknesses. So I'm using the Met Office as my primary weather app, and then I also use xcweather.co.uk, which is I think I heard about it from some people who needed reliable weather for sailing conditions, and then there's also another one which I think is called, I'm just going to look at my phone, so forgive me to glance in, it's called Clear Outside. Outside. And that I find to be the most reliable over the next 24 hours, where Met Office tends to be really reliable well into the future, or generally reliable well into the future.
Thank you for that. I've even taken advice off that one as well. I tend to use the Met Office one a lot just for general weather, but I didn't realise there was quite, obviously other ones to look at as well. So thank you for that, mate. Alex James has asked, has Andrew Astro modified any of your cameras?
No.
Okay, and he asks then again, I knew you were going to say that. If no, have you thought about it?
I have thought about it, and it's not for me because of what I want to achieve with my photography. So I'm trying to capture, obviously I want to capture images that make people stop and take notice, but I want to capture images that inspire people to capture something similar, rather than creating images that are like so far out of reach that they do need specialist kit. I love to see astro modified images. This is where, for instance, you've sort of adapted various wavelengths of light that reach the sensor, and so you can capture the rendering of certain colors of gas in different different elements of the night sky. It's something that is growing, definitely, and the Sonys do take well to it, but it's not for me.
Great. Alex, I hope that answers your question. And I think finally, Lewis McDonald said thank you for the Aurora question from the Outer Hebrides. So he was pretty far up north, I think, there. Thank you for tuning in as well. And finally, Action Colour. Is the centre of the star trail around the star Polaris?
Yes. And there is I can't easily demonstrate it right now, but there is a way to locate Polaris, which is from the constellation of the Plough, also known as the Big Dipper. I will tweet something out, and that is at Long Exposures on Twitter. I will tweet something out as soon as we finish here that highlights how to do this. But basically, you're finding Polaris in your frame, and the Earth rotating is doing the rest of the work for you.
Thank you, Andrew. That's great. And again, if you can obviously tag in at Wex Photo Video, I think it is, or their handle for Twitter, that would be great. Look, we could talk for hours here, and thank you very much. It feels like we need to do another one maybe in January about taking this further to another level. So I'll have a chat with Wex about that as well. So unfortunately, we're going to run out of time now answering any more questions, but please keep them coming through. We did say earlier about an offer, so we've got quite a few offers here, so please bear with us as we go through them. But it does mean money off for you if you're looking to buy a Sony camera, whether you're stepping up through the range or you're looking to come over from another manufacturer as well to try us all this technology from Sony. So first of all, we've got a national cashback campaign running, and this runs up until the 31st of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply, and it is applicable to certain lenses. So please visit our website for this, or via the Wex website, which is pretty well set up. If you're looking for a certain product, it will tell you the money off with the cashback. Now, on top of that, if you have interest obviously in winning something. Now, if I just move a few things out here, Wex have a competition on, and it is here. There we go. You can win a Black Friday kit bundle. Includes a Sony ZV-1 and some lovely Manfrotto goodies there worth £1,000, over £1,000. The website is at the bottom, and you can obviously register and look at the terms and conditions there as well. Okay, so the other element is lens retention. So, like I said, we're putting a lot of money here your way. If you've registered your camera, or you haven't registered your camera, then please go to this website at the bottom of the screen, register your camera, and you could be entitled to, depending on what body you've purchased, you can be entitled to more money off on top of cashback with our lens retention scheme. So please make sure, if you haven't registered your camera or you go about purchasing, please register, because you could be entitled to more money off. And on top of that, some pretty good offers, Andrew, eh? You're still with me.
It's looking good, yeah.
Is this. Okay, so this is where you can gain another 10% off the Wex price by visiting this website, register your details, and you will be sent then an exclusive link or list of stock that's applicable. And I think there's a code there for you, which will be registered to your email. So lots of money there. Cashback, lens retention, win a camera and some extra goodies, accessories, and 10% off. I think that's pretty good. If you've stayed with us all the way through, thank you. But obviously, it's not just about the offers, it's about Andrew's experience using the A7S III. And I think you've shared some really good tips with your experience with it. So at this stage, thank you again, Andrew. I'll just see if there's anything else on the WEX comments. There are some questions, so we'll ask WEX to pick those up. But Andrew, thank you so much.
No, it's been absolute pleasure. Always enjoyable sharing this kind of passion and this interest. So thanks everyone for joining.
And I'll just bring up your details again. So it's longexposures.co.uk if you want to see more of Andrew's work. And hopefully when we get back to whatever normality is in the future, then there'll be no doubt that we'll be hopefully returning to physical events. And if we do, then you'll no doubt be seeing Andrew again in the future. And as we continue supporting our retailers with these webinars, product demos, etc., then there's no doubt we'll see you again somewhere on the internet working with you. So again, thank you, Andrew. Thank you for WEX and the guys obviously in the comments section supporting us. And we'll sign off. Have a great afternoon / evening, what's left. And we'll be back again with more WEX webinars in the next few weeks. Please visit their website, which is their events site. They have a dedicated events site, so have a look for more Sony webinars that are coming up. But again, thank you, Andrew. Have a great evening. If you can just stay on, and we'll sign off. So thanks ever so much, everybody, and we'll see you again shortly.
Cheers.